You probably clicked on this video thinking, I don't even know what a zero draft is, but it sounds interesting. So a zero draft is a first draft. It's a very rough version of the final piece of writing that you will submit. And it's actually not the official first rough draft, so it comes even before the first rough draft. It is completely unpolished, and it's where you as the writer writes down your thoughts, your ideas, and the potential structure for the writing that you are about to embark on. A really big tip in academic writing or writing in general is to aim for a zero draft as soon as possible. The quicker you can get to that zero draft, the quicker that you can start to edit, build upon it, and you've at least begun and got those ideas down on paper. A zero draft is actually quite simple to get to because it's very unstructured. You're not thinking about grammar, you're not thinking about style or making sure it makes sense at all. It's simply you throwing ideas down on paper and having something that's a lot less intimidating and a lot less formal makes getting starting with writing a lot easier, and it kind of diminishes that initial barrier when it comes to academic writing. I think these days especially, I like to think about a zero draft as my first entry to writing, and then I like to edit and polish. Whereas in the past, the mistake that I did was try to have a perfect first draft, have a first draft that looks close to submission quality, but actually it should always be a very rough zero draft. So in today's video, I'll be speaking about the 5 characteristics of a zero draft, why I think it's one of the most valuable pieces of advice you'll probably take from this channel, and also how we can use AI to help us to polish that first draft to a perfect final draft. So the first characteristic of a zero draft is that it will be completely unstructured. It may have incomplete sentences, it won't have any grammar, punctuation, or capital letters, and it may be in bullet points, so not full sentences at all. And it might just feel like it's a bit of a note style text, and that's completely okay. The second characteristic is that it is a focus on ideas. So thinking about ideas, themes, and what you are going to include contextually within there, as opposed to thinking about the specific wording, the way that you're going to say it, and kind of the overall structure. The third characteristic is that it is essentially a stream of consciousness. So as you sit down, you think, right, what am I going to include in my essay? This is a great way of having information just pouring down onto paper without thinking too much about the structure. It's done when you are in a free-flowing, spontaneous manner. And I know I'm romanticizing essay writing right now, but a zero draft, a first draft, it truly is just a bit of writing and scribbles on paper. The fourth characteristic is that it is an exploration. And by this I mean that it is you as an author, as the writer, thinking about different angles, themes, and the direction that you could take your piece of work into. And the fifth characteristic is that there is no pressure for perfection. And that is the one thing you have to take away from this. The biggest barrier, like I said earlier, to beginning to write is actually beginning to write, and you'll be so surprised to know that once you actually begin to put pen to paper, you can get so much down. And yes, it might not be great, it won't look good, it's not perfect, but it's the beginning part of it, and it's the place where you can start. You don't have to worry about mistakes or errors or anything else. You just need to get something down onto paper. Now, what do you do after this? What do you do after you've finished that zero draft? What is the next step? How can you now take this zero draft, these bullet points, these ideas, these themes, this random structure, and how do you now perfect it? To do this, I'm going to be using Jenni AI. Now, Jenni is an AI-powered writing tool that I've shared on this platform many times before because I truly think that it is one of the greatest writing assistants that there is out there. It uses AI technology to formulate the next best sentence based on what is already written. So that is even based off of those random bullet points and notes and the fragmented sentences, the themes and the ideas. It can take those and help you actually write. So let's take a zero draft that I'm going to show you as an example, and let's take it to something that it looks like a bit of a good first draft using Jenni AI. Now, let's take a zero draft, import it into Jenni, and build it up to the point where you can submit. So the first thing you want to do is write down exactly what you're writing about in this particular essay. So for me, it was the future of renewable energy. Now, I had already kind of taken some notes on a random Word document or even in my notes app, and I just brought these notes onto Jenni. So now I'm going to perfect those notes and get it to a point where I can actually submit this writing. So my first paragraph, I've already written a few sentences, but then I just began to bullet point, and it's from these bullet points I can begin to expand. So one of the first things that I want to do is actually look for some sources. So as you can see, everything is sort of written in bullet points. There isn't much information that I can actually use to get me to that first class degree level. So what I'm going to do is try to find some sources. So you can just simply select the aspect, the sentences, the paragraph that you want to cite. Click on Cite and look for some research papers that are relevant. And what you'll find here is that the papers are actually quite recent. They are quite relevant from what I can see and, from my experience of using this in the past for other bits of academic writing. And then you can read into more depth. You can also change the citation style quite quickly, actually. So it's super easy. You don't have to do it manually at all. Now I'm going to take the notes that I had written before, and I'm going to start to formulate it into something that's quite cohesive. So I have my first heading, which is solar energy. I speak about wind energy as well, and also hydropower. So the first one is solar energy, and I've already got those notes down on paper. So I'm going to go ahead and write the first sentence. And this first sentence is where I'm going to begin with the discussion, and actually Jenni can help me to expand on that discussion. Like I said, find research papers, find citations, and kind of just make the whole process a lot easier than writing from scratch and writing it all myself. So as you can see, Jenni suggests the next sentence for you as well. And whilst I have accepted it, remember that I always recommend you guys don't copy and paste. So I wouldn't take this sentence as it is and submit it as my final piece of writing, but rather I'd look at sort of the style of writing, what makes the next sentence good, what is the story, what is the message that's being told in the next sentence, and kind of allow my essay writing to flow from there. Remember that you have to continuously actually look for research papers. So the amazing thing about using Jenni is that you can write, you can search, you can edit, and you can also add citations all in the same window without going elsewhere. And now I want to expand on it. So I'm using the AI command to expand on this writing. And what it does is it uses what you've already written, uses the research papers in your library, and also uses the net to find information, and then it will expand. Another thing that I can do is I can take the bullet points that I have written before, and I can say to expand on that particular bullet point. So again, it's given me a nice big paragraph, which I think is just an amazing way of getting inspiration, a good way of kind of seeing what I could or should include in the next paragraph. And then you can either rewrite this, or you can look at the structure and write it yourself. Like I said, this isn't a matter of copying and pasting, and I think I've emphasized this in all my videos. When it comes to ethical use of AI, you never want to copy and paste, and that's something just to bear in mind. And now I'm going to start on the next paragraph, which is wind energy. And remember that this is not the final draft. This is taking zero draft, which is bullet points and just random information, taking that to a point in which you have a decent first draft, a first draft that is fully written, full sentences, cohesive structure for the most part, and just needs sort of minimal edits afterwards. The other thing that you can do is use the Ask Jenni tool, and here you can ask any question. So I'm going to try and find some information that I want to use in the conclusion, and I want to find out what the long-term impacts are of using wind energy on climate change. So I don't necessarily want to go to PubMed and search for research papers and, you know, do the whole literature review, but I'm using Ask Jenni, and it will pull out a relevant research paper and some information that is tailored to what I am saying. And actually it's given me some good information that I can use as a critical discussion point within my essay. So that's fantastic. And again, from here, I can either decide, right, I'm going to include something like this, I'm going to read this research paper, or I'm going to go ahead and maybe look for something else elsewhere. But this gives you that kind of starting point, that point from where you can actually begin. And at this point, you can just kind of keep on doing this, and you keep on kind of getting and building upon your bullet points, expanding on it, editing it, using the Jenni commands to improve on what you've said. You can even write your conclusion, you can write opposing arguments. There's so much that you can do in just this one window that will take your zero draft from something that's just a bit of ideas on paper to something that you can actually submit. So yeah, you can see how this works. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great tool, and if you want to use it, then don't forget to click on the link in my description and use the code AY20 as well. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did and you want to see more like this, then don't forget to press on the subscribe button, because my channel is growing so much recently, and I'm so happy to see my channel and my content be able to help hundreds and thousands and millions of people. So please press the subscribe button to see more content like this. And if you want to try Jenni, you can use my discount code Amina20, or you can try it for free to begin with. And if you want to purchase a subscription, you also can. I'll leave the link for it down below as well, so you can go and easily click and go and try it out for yourself. Let me know if you had heard of a zero draft before and you knew what it was, or if you've written a zero draft and you think it's quite beneficial for progression. And I hope to see you in my next video. Okay, bye.